Hello, everybody. I have 7 o'clock, so if everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Roll call. Sherry, please call the roll.
Mayor Keough.
Here?
Councilmember Cousins.
Here.
Councilmember Fisher.
Yes.
Councilmember Knight. Here. Councilmember Michelle.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Tao.
Yes. Okay, item C on our agenda is the approval of 3 sets of meeting minutes. The City Council work session from February 24th, the regular City Council meeting from February 26th, and the City Council work session that preceded the City Council meeting on February 26th.
I'll move those minutes.
Moved by Smith, thank you. Second by Knight, thank you. Mr. Smith, I'll let you go first.
Yes, on the regular council meeting minutes, which is starts on page 3. On page 3, under approval of the minutes, number 2 is missing under there. It only has the 1. Number 2 was City Council work session, February 12th, 2018. I went back and checked my agenda that night. And then after that, if you go to page 6. On page 6, number 6, the City Council election date changed to even years. It says any resolution would need to be made before December 31st, 2018 to make a change in city elections in 2020. Here, we have to say we're going to change it to 2020, or, you know, it's either changing to 2020 or it's changing the 219 and the 221 elections to now be 220 and 222. But it's not a change in the 2020 election because there isn't one right yet until we establish it with this. So I would say.
How about if we say any resolution would need to be made before December 31, 2018 to make city elections in the next even year?
Yeah, that's fine. Just something, because, you know, there isn't a 2020 yet until we do pass something.
In the next even year, Sean?
That's what I'm proposing, Paul. I'm open to suggestions if there's
That's fine.
That's fine.
I'm good with it.
Or even year elections or something.
Yeah, it's a year, okay.
And on the City Council work session on February 26th, page 9, down at the bottom under E, it says fire station, and then discuss of potential options. Public bathrooms were mentioned, inclusion in the fire station discussion. I think public bathrooms were mentioned in a lot of possibilities, including city offices. So I would just maybe put that separately. That, you know, we did discuss options for public bathrooms. Maybe that should be F. And I don't know how it jumped from E to J, but somehow or another they skipped a few letters.
Okay, so we'll make the public bathroom stuff F and the pyramid G.
Yep.
All good comments? Ms. Knight, you're up next. Other council members? Zach?
Just a minor wordo on page 4 at the top there. Fires station. Let's keep that as singular as possible, please. Just one.
Fair enough. You've got some objections? Okay, Ms. Sherry?
On page 1, the meeting was called to order, wasn't it 9:02 a.m.?
Yep.
And then on page 4, one, two, three, four, fifth bullet from the bottom, where it starts Walkabout Creek, it would be a shortcut, on the last sentence there, shortcut to Denali.
Yes, instead of a shortcut, okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, that's good teamwork, everybody. I think we did well there. Any other corrections to note? Okay, all those in favor of approving all three sets of minutes with those changes, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Okay, we have one item of prearranged participation. We have Jeff Chesmerick. Chesmerick from the Washtenaw County Environmental Program. He's the supervisor for the Washtenaw County Solid Waste Management Plan.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, I also work for the Board of Public Works for Washtenaw County, and the state recognizes our Washtenaw County Board of Public Works as the designated planning agency for solid waste, because every municipality, every county in the state has to have an approved solid waste plan. And that is because we want to make sure that they have area for disposal for at least 10 years. This legislation that kind of provides the guidance document occurred back in the late 80s when the garbage barge, if you may remember, was going up and down the East Coast. And the legislators reacted with strict requesting the identification of disposal area for their states. And the state of Michigan chose that we needed to have at least 10 years of disposal. Southeast Michigan has more than 10 years of disposal at our availability, so we're not really worried about that. But we also want to look at our goals and objectives that we have in terms of diverting the amount of waste that we create and figuring out ways that we could educate the citizens on the effect of the recycling diversion and what kind of opportunities we have in Washtenaw County. So the planning process, we're required by state law to identify a 14-member committee that is specific to certain industry. We have to have waste industry representatives. We have to have a local major generator on our 14-member board. We have to have local units of government on our 14-member board. We have to have regional planning and so forth. So we have to have 14 members, and basically it's determined by state law how we choose those folks in our community. So we decided, since the request for landfill expansion by advanced disposal up in Salem Township was our impetus for looking at the solid waste plan amendment, we decided to include Salem Township, since they're the host community, as being part of the local unit of government representation for our planning committee. So they wanted to expand the landfill. However, they were having problems with their mitigation of odors, and they withdrew the request for an expansion. So we decided to continue on with the planning process, since we hadn't had a solid waste plan amendment since 1999. And so we continued with the process after that withdrawal in 2016. What do we do to find out what the folks in the community want in terms of solid waste planning? We put out an online survey. We did surveying of around 372 residents of Washtenaw County to get some ideas for them to provide us feedback on giving us some guidance on what we should be looking at in our solid waste plans. So you'll see that on the slide number 5. People want more recycling. They want us to address the litter issue and business recycling, and how do we get in contact with schools to get schools on board. So those are some of the things that kind of guided us towards our outcomes. And we're working towards zero waste. We have a true north goal of looking at all these different activities that could reduce the amount. We know we can never reach zero waste, but like in archery, there's a target you aim at, you try to hit that target, and the harder you try to hit that target, the closer you get, the better you are. So that's our analogy for our zero waste goal. But we do have interim goals. We want to have a 5% increase in diversion in 5 years and another 5% after that. So we have interim goals to reach and measure as we go along in the planning process. We also have to be flexible in handling emerging issues. 20 years ago, one of our main streams was newspaper. Hardly anybody gets a newspaper anymore, and we have a lot of electronic waste. Things like that occur in our society and in government, that we have to identify what's going to be coming up next and how can we be flexible in handling those waste streams. So our first guiding principle is access and convenience. Folks want to make sure that they have the ability to go to a drop-off station and get rid of anything that they may have, so they wouldn't have to drop it off illegally or have somebody come by and pick it up for a charge. They want to make sure they have this availability. So we want to make sure we have cleanup days, and that picture in slide number 7 is a line of cars. They want to make sure that they can get to it, but it's not that easy and accessible for everybody. Also on page slide 8, you'll see that we need to decrease disposal through increasing recycling opportunities. Only 66% of our households have contracted curbside service. That means that they have the bins out there at the curb. Other folks in communities, the 34%, do not have that same access as everybody else. One of the other guiding principles we're looking at is education. We find that with a lot of different haulers and a lot of different processing facilities in our area, there are a lot of different messages. Whether or not you can take glass, where do you get rid of styrofoam, how do I get rid of household hazardous waste? Those are the questions that we get asked, and that we need to educate those folks and have better messaging out through our communities. Funding. We currently are funded by the host community agreement by the owner of the landfill, Arbor Hills in Salem Township, and we use that money to run our diversion programs. We also look at collaboration in terms of finding partnerships with folks in the community to help work on diversion projects. We're also looking at a regional approach. Some municipalities have 5 or 6 solid waste haulers going up and down their road. And we've been working with some local municipalities to go put out for bid single hauler services. Not only would you get lower pricing, but it also reduces the wear and tear on your roads. Each axle on a trash truck is around 15,000 pounds. So it's quite a load when you have 5 different trucks going up and down your roads. And at this time of year, I always put that argument out there because it's pretty obvious that we got to be careful with our roads. So also, we did this, we're working with Scioto Township right now. We put it out for bid for Scioto Township. You currently have waste management, so you have a single hauler in your community, so that's not an issue. But also, we just want to look at other regional opportunities. We know Western Washington Recycling Authority takes care of the recycling, but perhaps we could look at solid waste trash collection services, because currently, trash haulers in Dexter Township can take their recycling to anywhere that they want. They don't have to take it to Western Washington Recycling. So those folks are not only paying for Western Washington Recycling Authority, but they're paying to have it picked up curbside. So there's some opportunities out there to work with communities to see if we can get more diversion sent to our local markets versus shipped out of our county. We also, for zero waste programs, we're working with event organizers. We worked with the Dexter Days a couple of years ago with putting out these containers. We put out 3 different types of containers, one for trash, one for compost, and one for recycling. In Washington County, we run that, and we find organizers and volunteers throughout the community to help staff these, because we like to put folks at every station so that when a person comes up to throw something away, we can give them a little education on, like, that's compostable, you can put it over here, or that's this type of plastic, put it here, or this is contaminated, you need to put it in the trash. So we find that opportunity working one-on-one and is a good educational method. And we also, last year, we worked with food gatherers. We're going to be at the Heart and Soul Run in Chelsea coming up in May. But we serviced over 40,000 residents through our zero waste program. So hopefully the word's getting out and what people can do locally to divert more waste. We also work with collaboration with marinas. We work with Claves Marina and Max Marina up in Whitmore Lake to take back shrink wrap from the boat wrappings. Every spring when they take off the wrapping, it's a very clean waste stream. It's number 4 plastic. And we found a company to come in and go from marina to marina to collect this shrink wrap. And now we're looking for other opportunities too. For example, agricultural community, hoop houses, and nurseries are another generator of this type of plastic. We want to include them. So we want to create these partnerships and identify these different industries so we can help reduce their costs. And we also covered the cost of the shipping, because since it was so clean, it was a valuable commodity for the collection company. We also started a pharmaceutical and sharps take-back program. We work with Dexter Pharmacy there on Baker Road. It allows them to come to accept unused pharmaceuticals, excluding narcotics. And we help pay for the disposal, and we promote those businesses that are doing those things in our community. We have 13 pharmacies in Washtenaw County that currently take back unused pharmaceuticals, and we also have several law enforcement that take back the narcotics and the other materials that are regulated that we really can't handle through our program. So that's another partnership program. That's also something that we didn't know what to do in 2004, 2005. People would come to our household hazardous waste collection, they'd say, we have pharmaceuticals. And I didn't want to take them because I didn't know what they were, I didn't know how to get rid of them. And I just said, just wrap them up and put them in your trash. But now we have a better way of handling these materials instead of flushing them down the toilet. We also run community cleanup days. May 19th will be at the Chelsea High School. September 29th will be in Saline. Northfield Township on June 9th and October 20th at EMU. These are all open to every county resident, and we pay for these, and we do collect donations and get sponsorships. St. Joe Hospital has helped sponsor us on these collections, and certain other governmental entities pitch in to help fund these. But these are great events. We run these, there's 5 of these events a year, but we want to have these opportunities available more often. And not by doing these one-day cleanup days, but doing something differently. So we're looking at setting up some regional collection areas around the county so that we can have these opportunities more frequently for all the residents. So at these collections, we take household hazardous waste, electronics, furniture, metals, pesticides, you name it, tires, containing appliances. Batteries, yep, we take everything. So they're really popular. We have around 600 to 700 cars at each event, so that's a few thousand folks there that are getting service, but it's still just those 5 days a year, so we need to have something that's a little more frequent and more convenient for the residents. We also partner with the Michigan Department of Agriculture with the Clean Sweep program. They help us offset the cost of the unused pesticide, herbicide disposal. We've been doing this for about 7 years now. We collect around 50,000 pounds of pesticides that the state reimburses us for through the Department of Agriculture. So we also have our Household Hazardous Waste program, which is operated on Zeeb Road, 705 North Zeeb, first 3 Saturdays of the month, April through November, from 9 to noon. We have over 5,000 cars come through during one season, and we collect around 240,000 pounds of household hazardous waste. That's including paints, gasolines, toxic materials that you do find in your house, oil-based paints and stains and varnishes, old gasoline is another one that we take.
Jeff, how do they dump people got to bring the can? You can one of their-
We can dump it off, we can pour it off into a 55-gallon drum for you, and you can have your can back. So we have lots of empty gas cans if you want an empty gas can. So I just wanted to share to you tonight what we're currently doing. You can take a look. I gave you a location where you could read our plan. It's over 200 pages long. And the format is mandated by the state also. So basically we identify places that process by law hazardous materials and recycling, and also those that are under the solid waste laws for transporting municipal solid waste and disposing of it. So we are putting together an action committee because now that we have our goals, we want to get the residents involved to find out what we can do for you and what kind of ideas you may have for implementing the plan to help meet our goals. And that's why I'd like to invite you, if you would like to follow up with me, I'd be happy to let you know when we're going to be trying to put together a slate for this planning committee, and you can be a part of it. I know Commissioner Trustee Knight was part of the Solid Waste Planning Committee back in 1999, I believe.
That was a long time ago.
So that's my presentation. So tonight on your agenda, consent agenda, there is a resolution. We have to have 67% of the local units of government pass a resolution approving our amendment before we can send it to the state of Michigan. So we're going around to all the municipalities, all the cities and townships and villages that have these resolutions passed, considered at least. And if you had any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Go ahead, Rich.
Do you have any plan for plastic bags, specifically garbage bags?
Yes, we
Other than taking them back to the point?
Right, we researched that quite extensively a few years ago. We wrote an ordinance on the not the ban, but the plastic bag ordinance.
Nickel a bag.
A dime, we put a dime a bag, and the state legislature said we can't pass any laws controlling the sale of those containers. But we have looked at Montgomery County, Maryland, and other municipalities around that have passed similar legislation. We did a lot of research to educate the folks. We reached out to Myers and a few grocers, but before we could even have meetings with those folks, the legislation passed. So they kind of shut us down before we even had a chance to implement that ordinance. But we tried, and we know quite a bit about plastic bags and, you know.
Well, I know it clogs the machinery of any MRF.
Oh yeah, at the MRF, they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in the 2 MRFs in Washington County annually. So it does cost the taxpayers money because they just don't go through the processing facilities properly, and they just bind them up and down for an hour or 2 a day perhaps, just repairing those machinery.
What do you think your chances are of trying to mandate single-service haulers in the townships?
It all depends. I've done this before, and some townships, they don't want anything to do with it. And some even, I went to Scioto Township in 2006, and we did the same thing, and I showed them they could save $100 per household annually, and they have 5,000 households, that'd be $500,000 savings, but they preferred not to. It wasn't politically,
Is it because the homeowner pays for that service?
yeah, and you want to set it up through the administration, through the local government, because that way you have control of the contract, and you can put certain requirements in there. You could have them to report what they're collecting, where they're taking it, and try to control that. So we have fewer trips on the road too. So we've done this in the past. Some municipalities where they have 1/4 mile long driveways, they say, you know, if we're going to put it in our car and take it out to the end of the road, we might as well just take it down to the recycling station. You know, so there's just some, it doesn't fit in some communities, but some it's pretty ripe for it.
You said you were going for a percentage to solid waste, to reduce solid waste. What's your goal of percentage, 90%, 95%?
No. We're at 33. We want to be at 38% in 5 years.
And where are we at now?
33.
33.
Yeah, the state average is 15 though, so we're above the state average, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, one of my biggest complaints is I have a lot of e-waste, and I'm not even a computer person, so I just imagine this area has tons of e-waste. And it's very difficult for me, because I work Saturdays, to me to get there, wait an hour, whatever, 15 minutes. I'm glad to hear you saying you're trying to do more e-waste, because right now I have 2 microwaves, a computer screen, Lord knows what else.
And we do have some information, like Staples will take back Dell products, Best Buy will take back some products, but not all of them. And so we're trying to get more of those retailers to take back what they're selling out the door.
I'm more interested in a single stream, because the easier you make it for the people out there,
Exactly.
the more they're going to cooperate.
Exactly.
What's your feeling on this raising of tip fees by the state government to penalize the out-of-state incoming? Not only that, to preserve our 10-year window on space.
How it affects Washington, we don't even get, we're under 5% of what's being imported from Canada into our county.
The dump fees will still be reflected statewide?
Right, so they would be going, they'd be passed on to the consumer most likely.
Absolutely, that's what I
So-
know. You guys had a...
So by looking at lowering costs, by looking at bundling services and extended cooperative contract pricing, maybe we could still lower it even though, because a municipality, South Oakland County Authority, they lowered their solid waste by 17% the first 5 years and another 17% the second 5 years. And that's putting out the whole southern Oakland County up a bid, and they got 3 haulers that would do it, and they saved themselves a lot of money. So there's opportunities, but yeah, and then once they get the money, we don't know what would happen to it. So
Absolutely.
that's the other apprehension that we have. We want to make sure that it's directed in the right location to help us, the locals, those who work cooperatively, put some incentive out there for us to do a better job working together. That's what I would hope for.
Other than my being able to get rid of e-waste and potential chemicals and poisons, what's the benefit of my vote to support this resolution other than it's the correct thing to do?
Well, your name was with it. It's one yes.
And how many communities have you visited so far?
We're up to around 14. Barton Hills is looking at it tonight. We have 2 tomorrow night. We have Linden and Sharon tomorrow night.
Have you reached any outright disagreement or?
We had questions. We went to Lodi Township, they looked at it and they went straight to the funding. They interpreted it as we're going to charge them $25 a household. And I was like, no, that's not what it says in the plan. Those are funding options. We have to put the options out there for them to look at. But they misconstrued it and tabled it and are gonna put it back on their agenda in April. Salem Township, due to the issue with the landfill, I don't know if they're gonna vote on it or not. So, because
That's part of my concern with the dump fees, especially bringing it in from out of state. Thank you.
Yep.
Does the plan cover interaction with the universities?
We do have them at the table.
I looked at the early draft when it first came out in April, and I admit I haven't looked at it since, so I don't know if that's been touched on or.
Well, we've been having stakeholder meetings with large institutions like the University of Michigan Hospital, St. Joe Hospital, all the huge employers, and University of Michigan that have been attending, and we've been trying to get their feedback on how we can get them into the implementation committee, because we feel that that would be an avenue for us to pursue to get them at the table, to get some of their ideas. For example, the University of Michigan had worked with Apple to do their 1-day or 2-day e-waste collection at Pioneer High School, and Apple dropped the funding for that. So they have an issue too now with how do they fund their electronic waste disposal. And so we're receiving a lot more electronic waste after that event closed.
Thank you. Other questions for Jeff? Paul?
Just a comment that, we were able to provide a Red Barrel program here in Schuyler Township, both at the sheriff's station on Zeeb as well as one here. And that's been pretty successful for us. The ones in Chelsea and Manchester, Celine now is taking another, so that's been a good thing. And
Right, yeah, I like it that you can do it 24/7, basically. They put it right in front of their desk. There was legislation allowing pharmacies to take those pharmaceuticals back, the controlled scheduled narcotics. However, it was too cumbersome of legislation, and we found it better. And the police like to do that public goodwill, and we like to go.
being a member of the Watershed Council, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you the reason that the Watershed Council is so excited about that program, and it's because we don't want those, those drugs to go down in the river, because we don't want our fish to get hooked.
Right. Don't rush to flush.
I knew you were saying
You've
that.
been waiting.
Yeah. It was inevitable that it was coming.
You knew that, right, Sean?
Yeah, I didn't want to steal it either.
Last one.
Yes, sir.
Isn't the Dexter Public Schools in some kind of program right now to do their own recycling? And are you aware of
Yes.
that?
Well, we actually are working.
Are
with
you the
them.
one that implemented that?
No, it's my coworker that's doing, John Tolman. No, all of the schools in Dexter School District will be on board, hopefully in the next couple of months. We did have a few on board. We had some hiccups along the way, but we worked with one of your financial folks here at the city to make sure that we could get that to happen because of the contracting arrangements with Waste Management. So we got it worked out, and all the schools will be serviced going forward.
All the schools in the county, or just all?
No, I'm talking about Dexter. We have 15 schools outside of Dexter. These are school buildings too. So, but we provide audits. We go to the schools and we provide education where we go in there and talk to the facility director, the principal, whoever's doing the lead, because not every school is doing it the same way. There's some champion in the school. We have to identify who those are. So we worked with Washtenaw Intermediate School District, the facility director, who has facility director meetings to find who those people are. So we're connected with Dexter. So we're all set to go.
I appreciate your time this evening.
Thanks.
Thanks for working on the plan.
Thanks.
Okay, we're down to item E, which is approval of the agenda. I don't think there's anything in front of you or any additions proposed at this time.
I'll move to the agenda as presented.
Moved by Fisher, thank you. Second by Smith, thank you. Any discussion needed? All those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. We have one public hearing this evening. The city is considering a grant application to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund for Mill Creek Park Phase 2. For those of you in the audience, that are unfamiliar with the item, this would extend the existing path that's in Mill Creek south behind the cemetery, through the property that the city owns, and then over to the school property, and east out to Baker Road, just north of the Creekside Intermediate School property, right where the drain is, or in the vicinity of that drain outlet that's there. So with that, I'd like to open up the public hearing
7:30?
at 7:30, please. Is there anyone in the audience that is here to speak?
That's you, Judy.
You want to do it? That's me, Judy, okay.
Okay, please step up to the microphone if you're
Oh my
comfortable.
gosh.
State your
Okay.
name and address for the record, please, and thanks for coming.
No problem, thank you. All right. My name is Judy Brown, I live at 2845 Baker. Therefore, I'm quite interested in knowing how this pathway will impact the west end of my property that butts up to the mill pond. I don't know any of the plans or how this is going to be implemented as far as where the walkway is going to be and if there's going to be any barriers or if is it like property in the front where the city has, easement rights and just takes the property? So that's my question, all bundled up, and if I have further, I'll.
So you're probably more familiar with this than I. You know that the creek meanders back through there.
Right,
The proposed path would be about 12 to 15. Paul, our landscape architect is here in the audience, about 12 to 15 feet inside that towards you.
okay.
Okay, it does not go up to the bank, if you will, where the low becomes the high. I'm not
Okay.
sure where your property line is, but we could, we
I
could
think it's somewhere in
certainly.
the middle of the mill pond, actually.
Yeah, the path is only on city property. We
Yeah.
purchased property all along the river, so it's not encroaching on private property.
Right.
When you say the city has purchased the property,
Yeah, we purchased it from the cemetery and Phil Jenkins, and that takes it right to the school. Yeah,
Phil Jenkins doesn't own our 530 feet going west all the way to the mill pond, so.
yeah, I
that
guess we could look at
confuses
it, but we just provided all that documentation to Paul that shows that we own it all the way to the school property.
I'm gonna be looking at it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd really like to know, like I said, it doesn't seem to me that it goes into the same category as when they widened Baker from 2 to 3 lanes, they just, took the property up to, and moved the sidewalk and all that other stuff, and that became eminent domain or whatever you call it that way when they.
I can tell you that there was no plan for taking.
Well, I understand, sorry.
So-
That's strong
we're happy-
wording, okay.
We're happy to explain
Yep.
this. I mean, we're proud of the concept and certainly want you to be aware. So,
Yep.
if maybe you can get with Paul and Courtney, your staff, and
Yeah,
get
we
back
can
to you
follow up.
and show you what we understand to be the property that we're using and how.
Right.
We
And-
do have a map in the packet.
I would love to see a map. And the other thing is with regard, and this goes further down the line, regardless of, where it happens to be located, it will be at the bottom of the, hill or whatever you want to call it, going down toward the mill pond. Is there any sort of boundary, I got one here,
Oh,
thank
I
you.
didn't put this in there.
Yep, we'll take two. Is there any sort of boundary that will occur for, as people, I mean, I know that there are rails on the walkway right now where it is, so that people won't be
It would be
inclined to want
it would be a combination of boardwalk and hard path, depending on whether or not we were
Right,
within MDEQ wetlands or not.
Right.
Is that correct, Paul?
Almost the entire length of it, minus about 400 feet, will be on-grade asphalt pavement that
okay.
is 12 feet wide.
okay, so there will be no boundaries from the pavement onto the property next to it then?
I'm not following what you're saying.
Well,
No,
if
there'd be no planned railings of this.
No.
railings.
I mean, you walk down a pathway and there's suddenly nice trees or grass or whatever next to it, and people go off the pathway and
This
wander.
is strictly for a non-motorized path to get out to Baker Road to connect up to Mill Creek Park.
Understood.
Phase one.
She's concerned about trespassing onto her
Right,
property.
people stepping off the pathway coming to the property, onto our property from the path.
I would have to see where your property is to be able to answer
No
that
problem.
question for you.
We'd be happy if you're part of the process.
Yeah, would like to be.
But I can tell you that whole toe of slope where the homes are on Baker Road and slopes down, that is an impenetrable wetland system that has water flowing through it all the time.
Okay.
So I don't know how anybody would really want to walk through that.
Well, you have to put the walkway onto something, not the wetland, obviously, so you'd be putting the walkway somewhere where it would be physically capable of just walking, yes,
The
Paul?
walkway is gonna basically follow the creek shore, okay? The
Right.
whole way from the cemetery all the way down, and then to basically where the schools,
Yeah, I know the,
the straight strip that comes out there by
yeah,
the intergenerational center.
right, where that big jog is in the sidewalk.
Yes,
Yep,
okay.
understood.
So that basically, and so where it comes to your property there, it's quite a distance away there, and as Paul said, it's very, very wet down there and stormwater. Paul, I don't know how anybody would ever try to even think about trying to.
Yeah, well, the woods back there, I haven't done anything, and we haven't done anything in years, so it's pretty overgrown. Way back when I first moved there 34 years ago, we used to actually be able to walk dogs back there, and therefore it would have been very visible for people to come off there. But it would be interesting to see somebody point out exactly where it is and what it would look like at some point. I would be greatly interested in that.
We will do that.
Have any questions, hon?
No.
Sorry, Bill.
I'm happy to do that.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thanks for coming. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak this evening? Mr. Rush, welcome.
I want to address safety on this boardwalk. What I'm going to say, I have on a sheet here, and I'm going to read the sheet, and I'll give it to the secretary. And if I'm allowed to, I'd like to request that it be entered into the minutes. The safety that I'm concerned about is for those who are on the boardwalk, walking the boardwalk. I don't know of any rules that are posted about various ways to negotiate that boardwalk. And when I've been on the boardwalk, I've shared it with roller skaters, skateboarders, and adults riding full-size two-wheel bicycles. I usually walk next to the railing on the creek side. So if you get a picture of where I am on the boardwalk. Now, most of the wheels on the boardwalk make a low sound, but they're audible, and the boardwalk itself sort of transmits the sound. So you can kind of know something is behind you. And it's what's behind you when you're walking is mostly my concern. The bicycles pass everyone silently and very fast without an audible warning. No warning of a little bell-like thing that we used to have on our bicycles, or no horn that you can squeeze or anything. You don't know they're coming. And they're coming very fast. And the boardwalk is narrow. It's barely wide enough for a bicycle and a pedestrian. So the combination of individuals on foot and individuals on speeding bicycles on that narrow boardwalk is dangerous and an obvious safety issue that needs to be addressed. And there are ways to do it. There are all kinds of options. You might even consider asking those bicycle clubs what they might suggest. Individuals walking on the boardwalk and pathway should have the protection of safety rules for users of bicycles in particular. Bicycle riders on the boardwalk need to be required to have bells or horns to announce passing those on foot. And if that happens, I'll feel a lot more like going down there and walking. And I hope you will too. I suppose I should ask how many of you have walked the boardwalk, but I won't. I'm going to bring this. I'm going to bring this up to you.
Please do, thank you.
Excuse me.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak as part of the public hearing this evening?
Thank you.
Okay,
Saving your steps.
seeing none, we will close the public hearing at, is it 7:40? And we do have a consideration item on the agenda immediately following the public hearing. As in our common practice, there's a resolution proposed.
Go ahead.
I'll move the resolution, and I've got a whereas paragraph I'd like to add.
Okay?
You want me to throw it out there now?
Yeah, if you would make it as part of the resolution. I think
All right,
that would be good, Zach.
it would probably be the last whereas, and my understanding is that we were required to have this public hearing in order to apply for the grants. The last one would be whereas the Dexter City Council held a public hearing on the grant application on today's date, just to monumentize that we've done that.
Okay, so that's the motion, that's the resolution on page 27 of our packet, and 28, 27, 28, with the additional whereas right before the now therefore be resolved. And the whereas is that the Dexter City Council held a public hearing on March 12th, 2018. Did I get that right there?
Yep.
Okay, great. Motion by Michelle's, second by Fisher. Thank you both. Got the original, very nice.
Yep, I got it.
Questions or comments, discussion?
I love that we're able to turn $300,000 into $1.2 million. That's fantastic. Magic.
That's the goal.
It happened before.
Mm-hmm.
Rather, $250,000 into $1.2 million.
Right. Okay, seeing no further comments, please call the vote to approve the resolution of support.
Councilmember Fisher?
Yes.
Councilmember Tell?
Yep.
Councilmember Knight?
Yes.
Councilmember Michelle?
Yes.
Councilmember Cousins?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Mayor Keel?
Yes. Motion is approved. Thank you very much. We are down to non-arranged participation. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak this evening on any other topic or any topic? See a couple people standing, but I don't know that they're going to be talking. Have a great evening. Okay, we're going to go with none under non-arranged participation at this time. Thank you, everyone, for coming this evening. Item H are the two communications in the packet. They're our typical upcoming meeting list and our signed calendar. Any comments on the communications this evening? Mr. Smith, then Mr.
I know it's in Michelle's report later, but the planning commission's going to have a second meeting on March 19th, 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's pushed back now.
Is that-
Probably gonna be April
But it's on
18th.
here.
Yeah, because it was scheduled at that time of
Yes.
production.
Yeah, and I just thought maybe you wanted to know.
Yeah, thank you for knowing that, yeah. Will probably be April 18th.
Okay, our first report tonight is from our Public Services Superintendent. Dan, how are you?
Good. Good evening, council.
Good evening.
In your packet, I have a 2-week report.
Are all roads open in Dexter?
Yes, that's one of my updates.
I never did go by there.
You gotta drive
I couldn't
over
get
it.
through.
It's the smoothest repair we've ever had, I think. Well, I guess I'll start off with that. The week of the 26th of February, we had a 18-inch stormwater line that collapsed underneath Dan Hoy Road. I was kind of hoping to get it all done in 4 days, but it started on Thursday when we got the snow and the rain, so it kind of put our contractor a little behind. So we did the stormwater that week, Friday through Saturday, Sunday, got all that done. And then we opened it back up, and then this weekend we finished it with concrete. And it was open Sunday night around 5, 6 o'clock. So that has been completed. On the water, we ordered a new filter for the filter plant, and that should be showing up around April 6th, which is a little bit later than what we wanted to do. So what it's forcing us to do is we gotta get out ahead of the new filter coming in with flushing hydrants. That's really important to flush them twice a year. So we're hoping to start, well, we thought about starting today, which obviously wouldn't have been a great day with it being so cold. So we're gonna try to start the 19th. Depending on the weather, we might have to start a little later in the day so it's not freezing. Or if it's real cold, where it's not freezing on the roads where we're flushing. That's two of my updates. You guys have any questions on my report?
On here, there was a complaint about Baker Heights. I was trying to figure out how that related to us.
Well, our pond, we have the detention pond that's in the industrial park. That's where it goes out of the pond, is through there. So I got the complaint, I went and had taken some pictures, and I met with Michelle, Kurt Augustine, Patrick Groves. I'm thinking if you guys can wait till Michelle's report, there was a meeting today with some of the homeowners over there that I wasn't in on. So we're just working through the process to figure out, is it the counties, is it the city? So hopefully with her report, we can,
Is it erosion, Dan?
the pipes are rotting out.
Okay.
Kind of like what happened on Dan White.
Exactly what
It's
happened.
old and-
Just wondered what, yeah.
Dan, just one question for you on the follow-up on that.
Mhm.
How long have you been here?
33 years this June, July.
So in your 30 years, can you ever remember being part of a repair crew on the culverts
No.
out there?
Never.
Or installation of culverts out there?
No, only thing that we've ever done was 5 or 6 years ago, repaired the restrictor
outlet.
plate in the outlet.
That's
None-
at the pond though, that's not.
Absolutely.
That's not in
Depends
the.
upon the industrial park, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing that we've ever done.
Perfect. Thank you. Still, Mr. Smith, please.
Yeah, talking about Dan Hoy,
Mhm.
the spot that was repaired with the concrete.
Yep.
Okay. Is when the school does their project, stuff like that, is that concrete gonna be replaced by?
They're gonna
by
mill
the-
everything off in front of the school, concrete, asphalt, everything. The reason we chose concrete is because obviously they're not making asphalt right now.
Right.
And the bubble gum substance that we use, with the amount of trucks they're hauling dirt
Yeah.
with, it's, the only thing that's gonna have a chance of holding up right now is that concrete. That's why we did that.
But the plan is they'll eventually
That'll all
be
be
replaced.
removed, right down to the base.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Selfridge?
Go ahead, Dave.
Somewhat related to here, but just a general curiosity. When there's a high water use at a property, how quickly is that discovered? It's just when the rounds are done, once a month, basically?
Well, it depends. Sometimes billing will catch it and they'll send down a work order. That's the way we'd like to have it, or when they
Generally,
get.
it's 2 months. I mean, we don't have any way to know about it until we read meters, and we read meters every 2 months.
Right.
Okay.
So that would, after we do the billing, after we get the read, it goes up to billing.
All right.
Mr. Self?
I was looking at DBW report, what's the rainbow pre-K?
Rainbow childcare.
Rainbow childcare.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
All right.
yep.
And what's the lucidity demo?
That is, we're looking at, I don't know, I think it's
Asset management.
5 or 4 asset management computer programs
Okay.
for the SAW grant to do with water, wastewater, and stormwater and our assets.
I thought you were checking your mental capacity.
They were doing that.
So they didn't come on.
They want to do that.
Making sure you're all right.
I was wondering.
5 girls is changed me. Any other questions?
When will we begin street sweeping?
Street sweeping? Soon, hopefully. I mean,
Soon as
it'll
snow
stop
stops.
snowing every other day, yes.
I
You
agree.
tell me that.
No, we will. I mean, we generally try to, to keep up on that, and it's ready to go. We just
Okay.
got,
Cool.
yep.
Was this high metered water sewer used for the old tile building?
Yes.
Yeah. They have a part that they're not tearing down
Okay.
that still has water. That has some running toilets and such.
Yeah.
Plus they had a leak, so.
Yeah, they had a leak about a month ago, and then it continued on, and then they called when they got a high water bill, and we went in and said,
Toilets, all right.
toilets. So, sometimes it's not that easy to figure out, you know. But we try to help all the businesses and the residents as much as we can with that.
And finely tuned ears for running water. They can hear it a mile away.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the ones that we run into that's, they have sump pumps in their basement, and a lot of them are ran off of our water. And if something isn't working right and our water is running continuous, I mean, that's a big bill.
Yeah.
You know, and nobody really notifies us when they put them kind of systems in until we end up with a big water bill on it. So a lot of them run off electricity or backup.
Other questions for Dan? Okay, thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you.
Next up is our community development. Michelle, how are you?
I'm fine. How's council this evening?
Right.
Yay, you guys do that great. Okay, so before I get into all these updates, and I know you're just chomping at the bit for them, do you have any questions on my report? You never know where one of those is going to be an update, so go ahead.
Get us off.
So this is related to the, what are we calling it? The temporary employment housing.
Yes.
To one of the conditions, and my question is how it came up. It's number 5, the maximum number of sleeping rooms shall not exceed 3 and shall be limited to the 2nd floor.
Okay, so part of the reason for that, well, a lot of the reason for it is the plan showed that there were 3 bedrooms in the upstairs. Per the International Property Maintenance Code, those 3 rooms are eligible to be considered sleeping rooms. Since neither the plan nor Encore was asking for any additional rooms, the recommendation of approval is consistent with both of those.
So that was specific to this iteration, not the overall?
Not the overall,
Okay,
correct.
that would be a peculiar thing to write into an ordinance.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wouldn't be the first peculiar thing.
Right.
No, far from it.
I don't do peculiar very well. I can't even say the word very well. So, all right, seeing no other questions, I'll just jump right in. So, playing off Dan's update for you, we were contacted by a property owner on Baker Heights Court. They are under the impression that the city should be helping them maintain the drainage culverts, the drainage easement that goes from the boundary with the industrial park all the way down through Baker Road. We've dug up some information as far as the plat for Dexter, for Baker Heights. We've dug up the plans for the Dexter Business Park. We found the DEQ permit, all of that kind of very easy information to gather. But there are still gaps in trying to make a definitive determination as to who's really responsible. So we're putting together a timeline that will identify different benchmarks between when Baker Heights was platted, when the industrial park came in, et cetera. And then we're going to be contacting the Drain Commission. They're one of the ones that signed off on the original plat, which goes back to 1982, well before the industrial park was even created. So we need to try and determine whose easement is it, and ultimately whose responsibility. It behooves all of us to make sure that the drainage coming out of our basin is proper, and to the best of our knowledge, our basin is functioning properly as it is permitted. But it also benefits both the property owners and the city that drainage course is properly maintained. And that's where we're at right now. Any questions on that?
So we don't know.
So we don't know, but we're going to find out.
I will opine that if there's nothing on paper saying that village gets responsibility, that that's probably the natural flow of water.
Mhm.
And we just have documented right that our water can
I can
go.
remember something that's happened once before, but I thought it was longer than 5 years ago.
Well, we didn't fix the outlet structure. We
Yeah.
had to fix the outlet structure from our basement, but that's on our property.
5 years ago?
I would say, yeah, 5 or 6 years, yeah.
Within 10 or 12 years ago, we cleaned the whole thing out.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
The basement.
Two.
Right.
that
Yeah,
we-
that's probably what I'm remembering.
But I don't remember ever going down fixing the culverts.
No.
So that's where we're working on that. The staff met with Holden Branch. He's our representative for the MDEQ. And our reason for the meeting was to look into the grant funding options that MDEQ has for redevelopment projects in downtown. So this would be assistance dollars out there that are over and above what you get through the normal brownfield TIF program. And one of them is the Refined Petroleum Fund, RPF. If there is underground storage tanks, leaking or otherwise, and those need to be removed as part of a redevelopment, they have got a pot full of money. They're just dying to give that away. We talked about that because one of the things that I recall from our Phase 1, Phase 2 BEA, Do Care, all of those environmental documents, and Tom Wackerman was with ASTI and did this, it had said that there's a possibility that there might be tanks that we don't know about. So Holden is double checking some things for us to see if there's an eligibility there for that. Let's see, where else are we? The Broad Street third community engagement has been rescheduled due to Mr. Hess's illness. He's had the flu. He's still getting over it. They're slightly behind. They could have done the 28th, but in the conversation that I had with him, I took a leap of faith and said that I felt the city felt it would be more important to have a quality presentation as opposed to just getting it out and getting it done. So we originally thought that it might be April 4th, that would work. It works on our side, it doesn't work on the consultant side. We're running into spring break in different places. So we are tentatively confirmed for April 18th, Mill Creek Middle School, the cafeteria, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. I built in an extra half hour. The last workshop went a little bit longer, and I'm presuming that with this one being, having the potential to be more interactive and having the density and massing and architectural elements being talked about, that it might take a little longer, so I built in an extra half hour. As soon as I get confirmation from the schools that our reservation's been accepted, I'll be sending out formal invitations via email so you can put it on your calendars. Let's see, what else are we? Oh, in addition, I'm meeting with the MEDC Community Assistance Team representative for our area at the end of this month, and we're going to discuss, again, MEDC's funding options that we would be eligible for now that we're running the program, that RRC program. We're going to make use of that somehow. The Community Revitalization Program, or Rehab Program, CRP is what it's called. And then another funding mechanism they have called Public Spaces, Community Places. It's a crowdfunding grant opportunity. It's done through a platform called Patronicity. And what MEDC does is they provide a dollar-for-dollar match up to $50,000. So a total of $100,000 between what you're able to raise through the community and them. And that's for any public project, and that's specifically to downtown or communities with traditional downtowns like Dexter. It's one of those grant fundings that if we weren't in the RRC program, we would not be able to have access to. Excuse me. Pardon me. Another update is our economic development strategy The formal plan, or the final plan has been emailed. I have hard copies that I'll distribute to you before you leave tonight. We were anticipating a March 9th meeting, I'm sorry, April 9th, I'm sorry. The meeting was March 26th, was when it was going to be presented to you. One of the consultants is actually going to be on vacation, spring break with his family. So we pushed it back to April 9th. And I know you'd like me to go on more, and I probably could, but I'm done with the updates at this moment.
Questions for Michelle? Ms. Knight?
Yes, page 38, the very last item, the snow removal.
Yes.
How does one get exempt from removing snow on their sidewalks?
So this is something that has been a policy that was set up years ago. It's also in our code, and there's an application. You identify that you have some doctors, what's the word?
Your
Not a note.
cardiologist report.
I'm sorry?
Your cardiologist report.
No, it's not a note from the doctor, but you check off saying your doctor doesn't want you doing that kind of physical activity for whatever. It could be a heart condition, it could be a lung condition. Maybe you have a torn ACL. It could be anything. It could be a permanent or a temporary quote-unquote disability. Excuse me. There's basically three components. The physical, I can't remember the second one off the top of my head. The third one is that you have no relatives within the city of Dexter that could help you. And three is you don't have the financial wherewithal to hire somebody. So we got 2 applications this year from 2 different residents, and they fit 2 of the criteria. They do have the financial capacity because they didn't check that off. But as a way to try and figure out how to work with them, I sent a post out on Friends of Dexter just asking if there were Boy Scouts looking for, and yes, I probably should have said Girl Scouts too, but I only did Boy Scouts. If any of them needed or wanted community service. And the mother of one did contact me, so.
Are these just yearly applications? Do they have to reapply every year, or?
Yes, they'd have to reapply
Yeah,
every year.
I'm just wondering about a neighbor that I have that I know he cannot do it, so.
If he can't, and there's nobody in the neighborhood that can do it, and they don't have any relatives, I can send the application to you and you can get that to him. The Boy Scout is willing to do more than the 2 that he's got, so.
Thank you.
One other thing, if I could get some feedback from you on the beer grotto.
Ms. Knight?
Feedback. I walked down there today just to look it over, and I thought, they've got the 5 spots there already, and they're asking for 3 more. It's pretty tight right in there. I don't know if I'd be comfortable sitting there and having this big truck full of that parking spot.
It's really no different than how the pub has theirs.
Exactly the same.
So they're asking for, is it 2? Yeah, 1, 2, 3. They've got the space to be able to do it. And I just wanted to make sure that, people would be comfortable.
Ms. Finch?
I remember when Joseph Farrell.
I'm sorry?
I remember when Joseph Farrell was on council and had great concerns about the safety down there because you can drive this way, you can drive this way. And at that time, we had to make some kind of a change to get some people moved away from for safety concern. Am I remember that correctly?
I think that was with,
Okay, so now that space apparently that we move people back to make them safe, we're gonna plug them in with tables?
No.
Not necessarily?
No.
Okay.
We didn't, the tables that are being proposed where they are, which is adjacent to the sidewalk, between the sidewalk, the actual pedestrian walkway, and where the cars park, the curb. They had not proposed seating previous when they went through their site plan and special use. in this particular location. That may have been in another location, is that what you're?
Michelle, my comment on this would be, I trust you to make this decision. It would be clearer if there was a picture.
I'm sorry, that should have,
Unless I missed one.
it may have been that I didn't get it in there.
I think I know where they're talking about.
Right, I can send that out to
What I
you.
remember originally was that we did not want, we wanted to make sure there was a, whatever distance, 7 or 6 foot or 7 foot path
They have to-
along the main part of the sidewalk from the ADA ramp going across the front.
Right.
As long as that was maintained, they could have whatever number
Right.
fit in the plan.
Per the ordinance, it must be at least 5 feet. They're providing 6.5 feet. It would be the entire width from the ADA ramp to the adjacent property. So,
Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, my comment is, I think what Don was referring to is where we were in front of Aubrey's there, which was before Aubrey's, it was their other restaurant there, and there was concern about the cars and how close that was going to be at that time. And then that was kind of a minimum, we put the planter there, and then since that time, it didn't make a difference anyway, because they moved it across the building, okay? But it's really no different than, I think this issue is no different as far as safety as it is with the pub. It's exactly the same as the pub. And did I remember that also that the Creamery had asked for some spaces out there too? Is
They
that?
have outdoor seating.
they have outdoor seating.
And so theirs is right close there as well, right?
Yeah.
So we already have 2 of them in. I don't have any problem with it at all, and if it enhances the building and their ability to be financially more stable, I think that's a good deal, so.
I appreciate the feedback. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. Mr. Cousins, there is a waive, I thought there was a waive report. There is a waive report, right?
Right, well, it's
Yes.
not a complete report, but I'll start, okay? I have attended 2 of the WAVE meetings that have been scheduled so far. They're the last week of the month on Tuesday. I traveled there myself the first time, and then the second time I rode with friend Mr. Carson. As soon as that meeting was over in the afternoon, I got a call, a text, excuse me, from Michaeline, and describing the issue that you see in the letter on page 52 of your agenda. If you just take a quick look at that, basically what it is that there's at the bus stop on Dexter Ann Arbor Road. The bus stop is actually listed as on the corner, and the actual sign is actually on the where the roads are actually defined there, okay, over Hudson and Dexter and Dexter, well, actually Main Street there. So anyway, it doesn't seem to be a good space to have a stop there, in particular this stop here, because when the plowing of the snow, and it was a heavy snow that time, plowing of the snow came up, and it actually filled in a couple of, or part of the first parking there. So when the bus came in and parked, it parked then across the driveway of the gentleman that you see here who was trying to get out. And he was, I don't know if that happened multiple times, and this was the straw that broke the camel's back, or it happened that day, and he had a deadline he couldn't meet, but he wrote the letter here and described that. So in discussion with Michaeline and also discussion with Courtney, I think we should think about another site there. I haven't traveled a lot in the last couple of days, but when I had to go into Ann Arbor, I tried to look to see where the Ann Arbor bus stops were. And they're almost all of them are somewhere mid-block or somewhere. They're never right on that corner there. It also provides a very bad spot for when somebody that's trying to curve, turn the corner, and there's a big bus there, they can't see around it. So I think we got to just try to find another place. And then, of course, there's a concern of who, if we have a space that we are actually going to put there for with concrete or asphalt, who's going to take care of the maintenance of the snow there. And so we have some issues here, but it's being worked on. The gentleman has been communicated with that we will try to not block his driveway at any time in the future. So we're working on it right now to solve the problem, and I have spoken to Courtney about it.
Yeah.
Just so, well, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Sure, I defer to you. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I talked to Michaeline and asked them to look around to see
Yes.
you know, where might be a better spot. I mean, it's not all that far away from the shelter, in my personal opinion, but apparently, you know, they wanted one near the senior center. Recall that wasn't
Right.
the senior center, and they asked us to move it across the street for their
Yes.
convenience.
That's what I was gonna say.
And
So,
that's right. And
you know,
I did have a
we
conversation
did
with Jim about
Right.
that, and then he reminded me of that process.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't choose
Yeah,
to move it there.
the easier spot would be to have it at the senior center, but they didn't like turning the buses
It
left
took,
out of the.
it took them a longer time, and they weren't able to meet their schedule, and they still wouldn't be able to do that if we did that, meet their schedule that they have there, to meet the ATA buses that come Ann Arbor, so.
So, I mean, there could be another spot along there where it would be not in a situation where it's gonna block someone's driveway, but then it's always gonna be more convenient to use a driveway on a snowy day because it's gonna be shoveled. Whereas a random patch of concrete that's in an easement is not something we're gonna be able to shovel in a,
Is it,
I mean, I
do
don't,
they
I
have
wouldn't
a
take
Dexter
that on.
Harbor?
Yes.
Would it be possible to have them make that turn and come back and then cut through without, come right straight through the driveway, come up on Fourth and in that way?
I can ask that.
Because I'm thinking if they could do that, instead of coming this way, if they just said that way and then pick somebody up right outside the center and then came right out.
But it's not just people, you're absolutely right, it was, one of the reasons was for the center down, but it's not there. I have that rental apartment, I have two of my renters that actually use that every day.
Is that the husband and the wife that take it to work every day?
Yes, every day
Oh,
they take
she
it
told
to
me
work.
about them, I didn't realize.
And every day they take it to work, and every day they bring it right at home.
Okay.
And they lost their car, and they just decided to save money by doing that. So she works in Ann Arbor, she catches the transfer, but he works on Jackson Avenue, and actually is dropped off by his business there, so it's convenient for
Yeah,
them.
she said it was like 3 people, I think, or so. I mean, it's not a ton of people that are picked, so it's not
Not enough.
blocked for a
It's a
very long
short period
time.
of time, and I think it just was could have been one of the straw that broke the camel back, or
Right.
just, he had something that happened that day that just got frustrating, or whatever, so.
But I think it is more of an issue, a winter issue, than a summer issue.
I'll keep you updated on it, and try to.
Could they be picked up on Hudson Street somehow, and then turn right on Dexter and Arbor?
Say it again.
Be picked up on Hudson Street and turn right onto Dexter and Arbor? You're saying that coming out of the senior center are having a hard time making a left.
Well, you'd have to
They want to come right straight up Dexter Ann Arbor
I'm
Road.
just saying.
Yeah, because
maybe-
they
Right.
pick people up at, the shelter, and then they come to the next one, so they'd have to,
So we got 2 spots, we'd have 2 spots on Dexter and Arbor.
Yes.
there are 2 now.
Okay.
There are two now.
Well, 3 if you count Mill Creek, right?
Yeah, in that area, right, then there's another one in Mill Creek, correct, yeah. We'll look at it.
We'll work on it. Thank you for.
Okay, down to city manager report.
The implementation of the Main Street signal timing, we were talking about doing that during spring break week, which is the last week in March. So kind of getting that new timing in before the crunch of school traffic, and then, giving it a week before that happens. So I'm hoping that we're able to do that. We're also talking about doing the Pacer ratings that week as well, either that week or the first week in April. DTE is going to be doing some tree trimming. I'm going to send that out in an email update this week, but it's basically the corridor sort of along the Huron River, 2nd Street, behind the DPW, thankfully, because we've lost power because of fallen trees into poles. So I'm very happy to see that they're doing that. So they'll be contacting the homeowners, but they provided us with all the residential information, so in a map that we can send out so people are aware of it. The school's recycling, I had updated council about that they feel like they're exempt from our solid waste ordinance. So Scott is still looking into that. He hasn't gotten back yet. Waste management they're not gonna fight if they don't continue their school's recycling. At this point, they're willing to, recycling isn't really required anyway, right? So they're not gonna make us think about that. They're a little concerned about Advanced actually wanting to come into a community with an ordinance, because that doesn't seem like something they should necessarily be comfortable with. But I'm still looking for feedback from Scott, and he has some other partners in his office that have done more municipal work that he was gonna ask about that. Because the Ann Arbor Public School, according to Pat Greavy, Ann Arbor Public Schools operates under the city's single hauler recycle contract. Sharon had said that no other Washtenaw County school district did that, but it turns out Ann Arbor does, so I would think that the
Did you find
argument.
out if there are others?
Pat, I know Celine must not because they're a waste management community and Pat only brought up Ann Arbor. Yeah, I mean, I can look, but when I showed their attorney's opinion to Scott, I mean, so many communities are doing single hauler that if it really was, federally an issue, it seems like there'd be a lot more challenges from disposal companies to say that that was a problem. So he's gonna look into it from that perspective. The recycling isn't as big of an issue as, like the slippery slope of trash. And the schools do intend to start that the week of spring break, to implement it during the spring break week. And then the other thing with the schools, they're gonna have to move those enormous dirt piles. And it could be a potential cost savings for that, like a significant cost savings for them if they don't move them until they're ready to use them, which would be at the same time as the Baker Road closure. So that would mean going through town and around to Creekside instead of just down Dan Hoy to Baker to Creekside. But it's a really significant savings to do that, even though it's a longer trip, because they don't move it twice. So we're still kind of working that out. I mean, it would be a lot of trips of dirt.
On our streets.
Right.
Well, it's a lot of dirt, dust. You can't
It's-
tell me they cover them that good.
Where and where?
It's a lot. So anyway, we'll keep you updated, but they're still working on whether that's something that they want to do. But Patrick said it took the contract from like $300,000 to like $100,000. So I mean, it was not insignificant of an impact for them to
Have them do it
possibly do it.
later.
Because the original bid was
Oh,
to
they
move
come
it
in on
before the
budget.
roundabouts. But one of their contractors provided like a bid to say, hey, if we did it, only had to do it once, we could give you this price. And so that's why they're looking into it, which I understand. I mean, that's an enormous savings, so.
They split it with us.
Yeah, right. Yeah, to pay their tappies. So, anyway, it's just kind of a heads up. I don't, with the way that the things are going to be, it's gonna be tough, trucks are already gonna have to be using Dexter and Arbor, whereas before they would have to use Baker, so it's gonna be hard to ban it as an option because of the road closure, so, just kind of something to, it's not FYI.
Traffic's gonna be banned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to Mayor Keough about, who had gotten a call from a business owner about the closures and the summer traffic, and we talked about doing a flyer to the businesses about the road closures, so we're working on that with the road commission to try to put something together specifically to mail to the businesses to,
My business is aware.
yeah, I'm sure. You'll be the conduit for fact.
Oh, boy.
Come by their back.
But, just so that, cause, the school's gonna do their project outside
That's all I'm getting
of
home.
Bishop Circle and, the paving of Baker and the roundabouts and Dexter and Arbor, so.
Till then, I'll be coming through there. That's on the way to my house.
And then today was trash day, so it seemed
I
like there
heard.
was quite a bit of trash out.
Was there?
I'm surprised.
Yeah, more than I was thinking.
I
Just
heard
got a
on
couple
Friday,
phone
too.
calls. Yeah, they picked up Friday and they picked up today. So I think they're gonna go around Friday and leave notices for people that put stuff out. I don't know if they're gonna take it or not this Friday, but then they'll be taking it obviously Mondays from now on, so.
So excuse me, you say they're gonna put notices out on,
I think so. I wasn't the one that
how
worked
do
on
they
that,
do
but
that?
I don't know if they were gonna put it actually on the trash or on the door or something, but they talked about doing something on Friday to help people be reminded that it was not supposed to be today. So I don't know if they're gonna leave the trash and put something on it. I don't know exactly, but I know they were gonna do something this Friday. Cause it was their idea.
I will be looking for that.
Yeah, so the only other thing we didn't
You're
really.
gonna put something out on Friday
I'm
just to get the
just
notice?
gonna-
Just to get the notice?
What kind of note I get, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to wait till Monday to get this picked up and it'll sit there all weekend.
Yeah, me too.
Let's see.
I really should say a lot less in these reports. So
No, you're
the,
good.
only other thing was something else about waste management. Oh yeah, some of the businesses are gonna be impacted, which we didn't really consider. They don't wanna do any toter pickup on Friday, so the businesses with Friday toter pickup are gonna go to Thursdays, so Waste Management will be contacting them specifically because we didn't do a mailing to them yet. Just, I don't, So that will be followed up in the next couple of weeks.
Well, I've not heard anybody complain about the change. I've received several comments that people noted it. They seemed okay with it.
Well, once you tell them, it doesn't have to sit there all weekend.
All right, they're like, tell me what day, we'll put it out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was surprised how many people remember
credit to you guys for getting the word out. And the mailing they sent out probably helped you.
Yeah, hopefully people got it and pay attention. And then I attached the schedule for the bonds, which will probably be pushed back a little bit from this original schedule, but it's close.
Okay. Any questions for Courtney? Okay. My written report is in the packet. I really don't have anything to add. I was made aware by Michelle and Courtney that the people from Baker Heights that came in plan to call me tomorrow. My phone number's been given out, so I'll keep you guys all posted on what I hear from those folks. Oh, did they take my card? Oh, it's good. Somebody should.
Yeah.
We printed them, right? Yeah, no, that's good. I wanted to just call your attention. I bumped into a gentleman named David Quinn from AT&T, the center part of my report. He works for AT&T, and he has talked to me on a number of occasions, usually from his vehicle truck. He works in the area and he lives in the area. And he's trying to get a map for us of where there is fiber optic. We've had people ask where it is, and anyway, really nice guy, and if you can help, I think it would go a long way. It's been one of the things that's been identified in our economic growth strategy plan, that if we can provide opportunity for people to connect to fiber, that's a good thing. So he said he's pretty sure it's along Dexter Pinckney Road leading up to their AT&T station over there on Dexter Chelsea.
They cut across the field, or?
I think they go right under the railroad and over, but I don't know exactly until I see a map, obviously. But I'm going to keep following up on that as best I can. I had a nice chance to talk at the Michigan Downtown Association workshop last Thursday.
What was that?
It was in Old Town in Lansing. There were about 50 people there from around the state. When I asked who had been to Dexter, good 50% of them had raised their hand, and I took the opportunity to show off a few slides of downtown and our area, and thanks to Brenda, she gave me all the background that I didn't know, but needed to know to talk about rules and application process. And anyway, it's a good question. It was very well received, so we should be proud of our small little market. They asked if I felt like we competed with anybody, and I said no. I said not really. I said the markets around us have been there. You know, I didn't even know Webster Township was trying to, or has a market, so I left that one off the list. But anyway, good presentation. Thanks to Brenda again. Please pass that on to her. Does anybody have any questions from you on anything? Reminder that we have our workshop on the 24th.
There's one comment that I called you about. I should let everybody know I had a major conversation with Dan Cooney. And, you know, you made a presentation the last time, and then there was a discussion of their particular interest in the area down there at, on Broad Street, I forgot the address.
3045?
3045 Broad Street there. They have decided to back out of that idea of wanting any part of that area there. So I communicated that to Sean the next day or a couple days afterwards. They are concentrating on the present building that they have. If you know down there, they have a fairly decent space between the back of that building and their property line. And they think that maybe that would be a better way to solve their problem of building there first, building a new stage there, and then tying it into the present site that they have there. So he wanted me to communicate that to us and to thank us for listening to it. I've known Dan for a long time, so I don't think it was up next area line, but I did communicate with Sean right away. And we should probably let Quinn Evans, or because I know they have had conversations as well with Quinn Evans or Norfolk know about that as well. Okay, so.
And Michelle, can you tell me that?
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Paul. Move on to consent agenda.
I move we approve the one item on the consent agenda, bills and payroll in the amount of $47,447.146.12.
Motion by Fisher,
Second.
second by Michelle's. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, signify by saying aye, please. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. We have no old business or down to new business. Item L1 is the Washington County Solid Waste Plan Resolution.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support it. Moved by Fisher, second by Cousins. Thank you both. Questions or discussion? Seeing none, please call the vote.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Fisher,
Yes.
Councilmember Cousins,
Yes.
Councilmember Knight,
Yes.
Councilmember Tell,
Yes.
Councilmember Michelle,
Yes.
Mayor Keel.
Yes, motion carries. Jeff, thanks for your presentation and for being patient to let us get to the item. Good luck. New business item L2 is discussion of construction management contract with F&B for the wastewater treatment plant project.
So I just received this well, basically the Wednesday of the council packet, so that's why it's clearly still in draft form. We didn't have a lot of chance, but I wanted to make sure to put it in front of you so that you could see it, since it is something that we haven't done in the past. I contacted the city manager of Hudson, and I had a call out to Sturgis, just talking through how it went with them doing something similar. I sent some follow-up questions to F&D, which basically were outlined in the memo, things about maintenance and guarantee bond, and a few other things, which they are gonna get back to me. One of the reasons for the difference in the percentages and the price was this idea of the guaranteed maximum price and risks that they take on because of that. So I was curious to see what it would look like without that, and just kind of doing it like we normally do, which when you get bids, you have set a not to exceed amount, and then if you have issues that come up, they come up. I mean, you know they're gonna come up, you have a contingency, you know, not asking them to stick to some price that makes them feel like they have more risk. So I think I'd rather pay less upfront, just to see what that looks like, so they're gonna provide that. So if anybody else has anything that they want more information on, or they're interested in, you know, finding out, please let me know. The thought would be that we're gonna try to finalize the details, see what kind of agreement we can come to, so that it could be approved at the next meeting or considered at the next meeting. Or we decide to just do it the traditional route and, you know, life goes on, so. I just wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance to see it nice and early, just because it's new.
So, your recommendation is that we pull the other option, both options, correct, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I want to work on this a little bit. It needs to go to MMRMA for review for insurance and indemnity, because I want to make sure that this is no different than if we were contracting with a contractor as normal, and the indemnity of the city, you know, that needs to be the same, which it should be, and then also have Scott, or potentially someone else, and Scott has been challenging to reach lately, to review it, like he did for when we entered into the design contract, just for some of those things, and then work out, like I said, some of the questions that I listed in the memo. Like the operation, the O&M manual, you know, that's listed as an alternate, which we definitely need one of those, right? So, but they were saying that F&B engineering typically does it, so there's still a little bit of confusion that needs to get worked out between, okay, what are the services F&B engineering is gonna provide, and what are the services F&B construction is gonna provide, and how do those two things work together? Because we're gonna have to pay for it one way or the other, right? So we just need to figure out who we're paying and how much we're paying. Because clearly, you know, that's the kind of thing we need. And our projects always have 2-year maintenance and guarantee bonds. You know, I'm not looking to give that up. You know, we're not looking to give up anything in this process.
I'm sorry. Do you remember when we had the incident at the construction at the wastewater treatment plant and the roof blew off?
Yeah.
Does this provide us another layer of protection with any transgression along those lines?
Kind of twofold. First of all, I want to make sure that the indemnities and things are in place that protected us from any liability in that situation. The second thing that I think was one of the reasons we even started pursuing this is that because F&B will be the construction manager, if they're seeing something that they don't like a contractor doing, they just stop them. They don't just advise that you should stop doing that. And when we had the owner's representative, that's all they could really do, because the site safety was the responsibility contractually of the contractor.
Right.
Which is why the city wasn't liable when the tragedy happened, but it still happened, right? So this way, our relationship with F&B is such that if they see something they don't like, they just stop it.
Okay.
Because they're the construction manager, they're the boss, you know? So that is, yeah. So it was like Sean described it, you know, it was kind of like taking a triangle of communication between the city, you know, in that case OHM and the contractor, and just making it a straight line of
Right.
the city and F&B. And that was one of the things that we liked about trying this process was that.
Well, improved by
It just, right, I mean, it just gives us a little bit more, hopefully a little bit more control, even though, like you said, I mean, we weren't liable for it because the site was the responsibility of Shimino. That doesn't mean that it wasn't something we
Yeah,
were
I
all.
still thought
Right,
lawsuits
so,
with our name was on it.
right, I mean, it's still a terrible situation that nobody wants to see repeated, so. If anybody thinks of anything or has any questions, you know, as you think about it, let me know, but we'll be working with it over the next, like I said, I sent them some questions today. They got back with most of them, they needed a little bit more time on some.
You gonna bring this back to us, or?
Yeah, it'll be the second meeting in March, and we'll probably need to decide one way or the other at the second meeting in March, because we do want to get the bid out in April.
Right.
So. The one thing we talked about too was timeline, and Dan and I discussed having the substantial completion dates. And with the headworks, you know, the urgency of that is not as great as with the tertiary treatment, because now with our MDEQ permit taking effect May 1st of 2018, our phosphorus limits are much lower, and so we'd like to set a substantial completion date of May 1st, 2019, so that we can tell the DEQ, you know, hey, we're doing this project, here's our date that we're gonna be able to meet the permit limit, because we're gonna struggle to meet it this summer
Okay.
at the lower level. But because we're in a construction project, that,
That
you
should
know,
be very helpful.
Correct.
They know.
It's all about showing intent.
Right, and they've been in on this since day one with the DEQ, so.
When does the maximum price get put in here? When do we know that?
After the bids are received. That's why I was thinking about just potentially not doing it that.
Okay, further questions for Courtney at this time on that? New business item L3,
Move that we accept the bid for Gen Power for not to exceed $24,000 for the repair of the well house generator.
second. Motion by Cousins, second by Smith. Any discussion required? Questions? Zach and then Julie? Or Julie, then Zach, how's that?
I just was gonna ask how old the generator is at this,
18 years old.
18? Thank you.
It's only got 500 hours on it. It doesn't get ran a lot. And the generator we have down at the filter plant's approaching 1,200 hours, so this is not a lot of hours.
Thank you.
So my question was gonna be, are the rest of the parts of it in good shape?
Yes. Yep. I mean, 500 hours on a big generator like that, and 90% of them are just starting every Tuesday. You know, there isn't even a load on them. So,
Yeah, the testing, your automatic running.
it automatically runs, they all do. I mean,
They just
that's-
get load tested once a year.
Yeah.
Yes, we just, right. As you can see, I mean, we went through just about every option there is, with it being such low hours. You know, for the $24,000, we thought that would be the best way to go. And we've gotten 18 years, you know. And something like this, we've never had happen before.
I was shocked at the difference in the pricing, as related to natural gas, of the bid that we're accepting in the highway. It's twice as high. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but I guess if they think they can make money and you'll take it, they'll bid
For a
it
new
out
one?
there. What's
You mean
that?
for a new one?
Excuse me?
For a new one, you mean? Those prices are for a new natural
Yeah, I
gas.
knew it, yeah.
Yeah, they're expensive.
There's a
And
big difference.
it's different brands too.
I'm sure.
I mean, in the brand name, you know, the most expensive one.
So, Even there's only a $5,500 difference between a repair and a new one, you feel it's better to repair it because of the low hours?
Yeah, there's not many hours. I mean, the engine,
It was more than $5,500 though to replace
Yeah.
it. The replacement column is the second column.
Yeah.
With the
Well, I have
installation.
28.5 versus 23.05.
and that doesn't have the install.
Yeah, that's not.
Okay, that's just the
installed.
price.
Right.
So
Which we had a little hard time getting everybody on the same page on what we wanted, and we went back and forth, and we did the best we could do with.
Well, that doesn't include some other variables on that.
No,
Yeah, the installed prices were more up in the 40s,
Yeah.
high 40s, 50s.
All right, that's more than adequate.
Any other questions on the generator? So, okay, motion by Cousins, second by Smith, not to exceed 24,000 for the generator power. Okay. Please call the vote.
Councilmember Knight,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Fisher,
Yes.
Councilmember Cousins,
Yes.
Councilmember Michelle,
Yes.
Councilmember Tell,
Yes.
Mayor Keel.
Yes. Motion carries, thank you. New business item L4. I'm not sure if this is discussion
Yeah,
or
it's really
consideration,
discussion,
because it's
yeah.
discussion item, right?
Yeah, it should be.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, I'll turn that over to you then. Discussion of Dan Hoy Road reconstruction is the topic.
So I brought this up at the last meeting, and Councilmember Todd asked me to come back. So what I think we need to do with this, though, is we can't really make a decision on it until May, when we get the prices back from NDOT on the paving of the roundabouts, or on the roundabout project, because if the cost exceeds the grant amount in the roundabout project, we're gonna have to put money towards that project, and so that would be even more use of road funds or borrowed funds to do that, so. Plus, we can't estimate a price until we know, because we'd probably be asking the contractor to do a separate project at that price, to do that work, so I think it's just something that, you know, we just really can't decide on until we know what that roundabout project's gonna cost the city.
And if we do know that price, then we can ask the contractors what they would cost there, and it's for a separate bid for that, for
Right.
our portion of it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Because we'll have mill and overlay pricing, because that's what they're doing in Baker.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody okay with that? Mr. Smith, question?
Kind of, we talked some about this last, and, I'm fine with us looking at that. Part I have concern about is, borrowing the money and then, trying to pay it back in 2019 and 2020 from funds there. I just feel like, if we feel we have the opportunity to do it now, maybe instead of borrowing the money, maybe we should just use some from our reserves to supplement the street fund to, just go ahead and pay to get Dan Hoy done. But then without any payback, because otherwise, we got the roundabouts coming up, then the following year is Central Street. And then, so this was going to be paid back from the road funds in 1920. But then that means there's less money than available for other local roads.
Right, though
at that point.
1920 had at least a $500,000 project in it, and still had quite a bit of money left over. So they're, without having, so 1920 had a $500,000 project and $298,000 in reserves on top of that, so, that was why I thought that if we couldn't pay back from 1920, there should be plenty of money, because a $500,000 project's pretty huge, for local streets, but, yeah, that will be up to council. I don't think I would be supportive of using general funds, though, and not paying them back, but, that would certainly be up to council to discuss.
Because, our roads are going to continue to, deteriorate over the next few years when we don't have funds available, to do much.
Well, I guess, it is much. Central Street's a huge,
Yeah, but as far as, those are, to me, those are the more traveled roads, you know, but I'm looking at how that compares to, you know, I look at Grant Street, you know, and.
Right, I mean, basically
Yeah.
Grand Forest and then the one block of Hudson are the main things that need, and Dexter Crossing, the streets that need to be reconstructed.
But
in Dexter
I'm just
Crossing.
trying to make sure that, you know, if we gotta wait that long, that when we wait, we can go ahead and tackle a good number of these other streets. Besides, you know, Baker and Central, you know,
Right,
I'd
yeah,
rather.
those should be taken care of for quite a
Yeah.
while.
But just, you know, like to know that planning out ahead, that we know when these roads are gonna be done, so. It's just a thought that, you know, I mean, quite often we end up with a surplus at the end of the year. So, yeah, I think we're, you know, 150,000, I think we would be capable of providing that to supplement the roads this year. Just a thought.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll know a lot more about that once we get
Yeah.
that bid and whenever that comes back in May, beginning of June, I guess. It doesn't go to letting till May. So, I don't know, how long did I get for that, 3 weeks, a month? I'm not.
One of those, yeah. Okay, thank you for the update on that. New business item L5 is consideration of setting a public hearing for April 9th, 2018 to receive feedback on the idea of changing city elections to the even year. So moved. Moved by Smith,
Second.
second by Knight, thank you both. Any council comments or discussion required?
What does this mean for me?
You're gonna spend another year. in
When
that-
is
I
your,
gotta
yeah,
go
your
here.
term would be extended a year?
Yeah.
When is yours up, 19?
I don't know, that's pretty good
Yeah,
behavior there.
what it would mean is that instead of having our next election in 2019, it would be in 2020. And then there would, you know, return to it every 2 years after that.
You get the second.
And this- This motion is just
Drag me
a
back
public
in.
hearing.
This is just to get public hearing set, right,
Yeah.
so we can take comment on whether people think it's a good idea or whether we're
And,
crazy.
you know, we need to make sure we get that message out to people that, you know, here's their chance to
Yep.
let us know how they feel.
Well, anything that increases voter turnout, I gotta support.
Did I hear Councilmember Tell say he's gonna bake cookies for everyone who votes in
I
addition
don't
to
believe I
stickers?
said that, no. Let me check my minutes. Nope.
Tell baking.
He might not like it.
They probably hire Paul.
Have a nice
What's that fault with it?
All right, please call the vote to set the public hearing for April 9th.
Councilmember Michelle?
Yes.
Councilmember Knight?
Yes.
Councilmember Tell?
Yeah.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Cousins?
Yes.
Councilmember Fisher?
Yes.
Mayor Keel?
Yes. New business item L6, consideration of the road commission agreement for construction services for the Baker Roundabout project.
And on that, I noticed that on the agenda it says construction services, and on the memorandum it says construction and construction services. So I wanted to check and see which one was right.
Yeah, it's,
And the resolution says something else.
it's basically just adopting the resolution is all council needs to do. So it's construction if the grant amount is not enough to cover construction. I mean, for sure, it's gonna be a portion of construction services, so, it's basically just the resolution is what
And
you'd be
it's
adopting.
project construction and construction engineering.
Right. So as it says, the city would continue to be responsible for 33% of the project. There's a lot of unknowns as far as the pricing and whether or not we'll have some funds available to use for construction engineering. If it comes in under the 1.3, we will. If it doesn't, we won't. We're also responsible for $50,000 in sewer work, and then obviously our cost share for Baker, but we knew that because that's a separate project or a separate.
Is there any reason we should wait until our next meeting? I noticed there was a note about that on.
No, I was just saying that you can. I mean, if there's something else, you know, that you want, we can, but it's not, it's not extremely time sensitive because the bids aren't coming back until May, so if there was something else people wanted, we could do
Are
that.
they requiring this before the bid? Just curious. the agreement in place?
I mean, they didn't say that, we were just trying to finish it, because we know it's coming.
Yeah, the program.
I will move the agreement as shown on page 107.
Moved by Michelle,
Second.
second by Cousins.
So the road commission will be providing all the construction engineering and inspection for our project and for, the roundabout project.
Zach?
Does this include the lighting, or is that a special different thing?
So we already did the lighting, that's all been taken care of and paid for. Now,
Okay.
if the bids come in under the 1.3, we can get some of the lighting paid back through the grant. Right now, we have paid for our lighting
Okay.
and for the portion of the road commission's lighting that we agreed to pay
For the
to
fancy
upsize
lighting.
the tier, to try for the teardrop. So there, again, is a chance, depending on how the costs come back, that we could get some of that lighting money back as well.
And landscaping, any word on that? I assume we're 100 in on that.
That would be 100% on, right. So I did email JJR, actually, the lady that had provided the scope months and months, like back in June or something. And I didn't hear back from her, so I'll follow up with her again and see, because now we have the definitive areas that are available that don't need to be countable, so I will follow up with her. I'm surprised I didn't hear back from her.
Thank you.
Ms. Knight?
Is Sire Township responsible for any of this?
I believe SIO paid for, if there was a charge for the sidewalk easements that they chose to have the road commission put in that are in SIO, but that's it. So the road commission is SIO. SIO doesn't pay for their own roads. So SIO did financially participate, and again, that was between the road commission and SIO for any cost associated with the sidewalk easements.
Was there a hand up over here? I was looking this way. No, okay. I just want to try to didn't miss anybody. Other questions? So the percentage here is consistent with what we've done the entire project on the, no change. Okay, if I call a vote?
Councilmember Knight.
Yes.
Councilmember Tell.
Yes.
Councilmember Cousins.
Yes.
Councilmember Fisher.
Yes.
Councilmember Michelle.
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Mayor Keel.
Yes, motion carries, thank you. New business item L7, consideration of the recommendation from the Planning Commission to approve the combined site plan for the wastewater treatment plant improvement project.
I'll move that to approve the combined site plan for the 2018 wastewater treatment plant improvements dated February 19th, 2018.
I'll second.
Moved by Smith, second by Fisher. Council questions? Zach?
Just want to make sure we've got it surveyed and we're not going to be building things on property we don't own this time, right?
It hasn't been resurveyed, but it is, we did have the boundary line identified, that's how we know exactly where it is in relation to the existing buildings.
Good. Thank you.
We talked about potential, I mean, it's still separated into like the Cantor property and this person's property and this, so even though we own the parcels, they're still all individual parcels. We're talking about potentially just doing the lot combination of the whole thing and just be done with it. And, you know, we've accumulated so much over the time, we've just never actually, now that we control more of that, it'd be easy for us to just
Is there any more
combine
pieces to get?
all the lots. Yeah, essentially maybe one day, but for now, we're good.
We're not anywhere near the Cantor property, are we?
No, but I'm saying like even this piece was like a piece, it's just,
They're
it's
a
all
bunch of
kind
separate
of,
different pieces.
yeah. We just need to make it one big parcel.
Right. Yeah.
Other questions? Okay. Please call the vote.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Cousins.
Yes.
Councilmember Tell.
Yeah.
Councilmember Knight.
Yes.
Councilmember Michelle.
Yes.
Councilmember Fisher.
Yes.
Mayor Keel.
Yes, motion carries. Our last new business item tonight is a discussion of the request for proposals for investment services prepared by Sherry, our acting note taker tonight.
I haven't taken this many notes since college.
I will turn this item over to you and let you lead us through what's there.
So
Please.
basically when, some years ago when I started here, I kind of looked into investment advising, but there wasn't really anybody that wanted to touch a community this small.
And now?
Well, now there is.
Yeah, but
So, I actually been talking to a gentleman from Meter Investments. They're mainly based in Ohio, and they do largely schools, but they are interested in branching out into municipalities. So I asked the finance committee to help me because this is kind of an uncharted territory for us, having somebody else actually, manage our money. And we also pulled in Mike Fitzpatrick from the DDA because their monies would be involved as well. And consensus was that we thought this was generally a good idea because we would realize more in investment returns than we would be paying in fees. This would be a fiduciary relationship, as I explained in the memo. They would be working for us. They would not be working for another financial institution or for a broker. They wouldn't be getting money from anybody else from us. So their job would be to service us, not to make money by selling securities. But we also kind of discussed how, because this is obviously a sensitive subject, it'd be better to go and get bids than just, pulling in one organization. So I prepared an RFP. I plagiarized shamelessly from the city of Ann Arbor and cut it down considerably because, of course, we don't have Ann Arbor's needs. And so I have that prepared. So basically, I'm just asking if council is comfortable with this idea, and if you have any comments on the RFP before we would go out. We would send it to the two firms I know of that do this business, which is Meter and PFM Group, and then also put it on Mitten in case there's other organizations out there that would be interested in a smaller client like us. So that's.
How did you get a hold of Meter?
I met him at a conference. He's one of the associate members of the MMTA.
I guess I was surprised that there were no groups that were interested in doing this, or smaller groups, and that they wouldn't combine with other units of government to try to do that.
Well, there are organizations, well, there is a government pooled investment account that happens. It's called Michigan Class, and that is kind of a pooled government type thing. It's run by, the board consists of members, mostly treasurers from municipalities.
Yeah.
So that does exist, but it's like any other vehicle where they don't actively manage. You just deposit to them.
So I'd say a couple things that I looked into this is there are limits on what vehicles they can put the money in. So they're not buying savings and loans or those types of things. So that's still limited by the state of Michigan. There's still liquidity in there. So if we have to pull stuff out, there's no penalties, but we don't make as much as we would have made otherwise. And because it's a personalized thing, if we know we're gonna have expenses for a trail or whatever, they can manage it just for us so that that money comes out of the investment vehicle when we need it. So it's pretty neat. There's a noticeable difference in the amount of money we'll get for having money. Like, was it 20,000?
Yeah.
So that's, that's not a huge, that's not gonna buy a fire truck, but that's not nothing.
And that's something that's difficult for me to do on my own because of time and limitations. I don't have the contacts, I don't have the, the information that they have, the research that they can do.
Good move.
So we'll go ahead then, if council's okay, and put up that RFP.
Sounds good, thank you.
There's ways to make money off our money.
We are down to council comments, starting with, where I started last time. How was Mr. Cousins this evening?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Tell.
I would ask that a copy of Dr. Rush's concern be forwarded to the Parks Commission.
What a wonderful problem to have that there's too many people.
Parks Commission.
I guess that's
Yes. Ms. Fisher. The honorary Ms. Jones report? Anything? You good? Or anything, clarification on there?
No, I think I'm good, thank you.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. I forgot to say that. Mr. Smith? Ms. Knight?
Good, thank you.
Well, as the new CapDart representative, I didn't do a write-up for this one, so I'll just give a quick verbal one here. We met in February on the 24th, and we had Teresa Gelati from Washtenaw County talk to us about housing. It was primarily about providing opportunities for different types of housing with a little bit of affordability mixed in. The most exciting update was Linden Township is trucking ahead with their fiber to everyone's door project. So that was kind of exciting. This next week, or this next month, we're looking to get an actual developer to come in and talk to folks, because on the government side, we don't understand all the processes and the crazy stuff and how they look at the project. So that's what's coming up the next time. That's all I've got.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back around in non-arranged participation.
Another question.
Okay. Sure. Still Judy Brown?
I'm still Judy Brown, 2845 Baker.
Thank you.
Question, when they did the paving of Hudson Street and the sidewalks and everything, why did the recess in front of the mail cluster right near Mug and Bob's not occur? Namely, when we get our mail by car, we drive up, have to put on our four-way flashers, go out and get our mail.
That was the one that was going to be moved up beside the other one.
Oh, is that, I had heard a rumor of that, yes.
And then there was also talk about moving it around the corner.
Yeah, it's gonna be moved to Grand Street, actually. It's gonna be moved around the corner to Grand.
It's gonna be moved to Grand Street.
Yeah, so that it's not right in that person's driveway, blocking their access when people are checking it. I believe is the issue. It's too close to the corner where it is now.
Okay. When might that move occur, do you know?
Probably April, May-ish, whenever they come back to do the, so we were waiting for the post office to, or no, we have to provide a flyer to the post office and they'll put it in the boxes to let people know.
Okay,
when
so
we're
it's
ready.
basically
It's another month.
just on the other side of Baker, on one of those corners, or?
It's on the other side of, like, so instead of, it's turning the corner
Around
on
the
Grand.
corner.
It'll be on Grand.
Oh, on,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think.
Between Hudson and Baker.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one block along the shopping down there.
The back side of Mug and
Mug
Bob's.
and
Yes,
Bob's.
Mug and Bob's.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But not on that side of the street, the opposite side of the street
That's
from
right.
Wood House. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to devise-
Coming down Hudson
Okay.
Close,
Right,
where it's at now. You make it right down
right,
Grand.
that little,
Yeah, it's gonna be down a little bit where the ground is at.
oh, okay.
So
So
it
there's
gets
no
you
house
nice.
or anything that's
No.
being impacted by that? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
People will be able to.
It's a little crazy, you,
Huh?
living on Baker, have to get
Right.
your mail up there.
That, it's a little, that's not an
Where
issue.
it became a problem.
It's the
Is
people.
there anyone else?
Supposed to get used to
They
it.
don't
Right.
assume.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak
Driving
this
Hudson
evening?
and, sorry.
No, that's okay. We have a closed session for the purpose of discussing pending litigation related to Dexter Shops Tax Tribunal
And I also want to add the actual to that.
and DAPCO. So we'll need to clear the room, please, and thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you.
Please get back to you on your questions.
Yep.
John, I'll be back.
Okay, Jim.